I remember starting when hosted voice first came out, and there were people like Fuse getting $40 and $50 a station, even more, sometimes 60 and 70. Now it's under 20, going south all the time, and it keeps going south, doesn't it? So for a lot of us, we see, what do they call that? An attitude of scarcity. All the good accounts are taken. Fierce competition. Any of you guys feel that way? I'm guessing we all do sometimes, right? It's just a tough market out there. It's tough to compete. It's tough to win a sale. And yet, I like to think of it as the glass is half full. How do we get bigger sales? How do we turn this market into an opportunity for us? How can we make more money? How can we use all this market disruption to our advantage? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And my hope is that I've got an idea or two you can take with you that'll help you win that next big sale yourself. So that's what we want. How do we make money in this business where matter of fact, I work with a lot of people. We go out, and almost every proposal we put out is less money than what they had before. Just the keynote speaker, if you saw him just a few minutes ago, when he talked, his first proposal was, I think, 5% less. And then they worked up the numbers, and it was 50% less. But it's certainly a race to the bottom, isn't it? Less and less and less. How do we make money in that kind of environment? So let me just ask you, before I get going, I don't want you just to be sitting back looking at your iPhones. Let me just ask you, what's the biggest thing holding you back from making big sales? Let me just get a couple from each side. On this side, what's holding you back from making a big sale? Let's say 10,000 MRR, 50,000 MRR. What's holding you back? Yes?
The customers educated themselves.
Customers are okay, great point. Over here, what's preventing you from making a big MRR sale? Yes?
Experience making that big MRR sale.
Pardon me? Experience. So you haven't done it, okay, great. How about over here, what else? Other reasons. Sir, you had one.
I think a $10,000 MRR sale is easier with multi-location.
Yep.
And a lot tougher with one big location with a lot of people.
Okay, so finding people who are spending 10,000 MRR. We're going to go higher, folks. I'm going to go over 100. I work with people who've a lot of examples of over 100 MRR. And guess what? You're in a business, you don't have to inventory it. You don't have to buy millions of dollars worth of stuff. If you sell it, somebody else is going to provision it. That's the best thing about this business. You don't have to, I understand their expenses. I just got an eye roll from you, so I get it. Okay, hold that.
I'll tell you why I got the eye roll if you want to hear it.
Please.
We might be a little bit different than everybody else over here. Not really. We're from the voice
Okay.
side of the business. A lot of people come from the data side of the business.
Okay.
And I think from the voice side of the business, where you've got traditional installation crew,
Yeah.
and that's your mindset. Certain carriers, certain hosting providers don't facilitate that. We own the customer. We're responsible for everything.
Okay.
Just handing it over to a project manager and hoping they do a good job and kind of help you whenever we can. So,
Well, mindset. That's what we're here today to talk about, sir, because the biggest thing I want to hear, influence you if I can, is mindset. Matter of fact, an exercise here in just a minute is going to be about mindset. So hold the thought. At the end, if you want to give me another eye roll, you're welcome to do so. I'm a big boy. I can take it. But I am here to give you ideas, and the biggest thing we have to do is to say, you're entitled to play in that game. You are. So thank you for that. For those of you who don't know me, a couple guys I was talking with at lunch, I just did a webinar for channel partners a couple weeks ago about the changing world of sales and marketing with my friend and colleague Ginger Clay. If you didn't get that, it's online if you want to, about many of the same issues you guys talked about, which is the changing world of sales, how people are checking you out ahead of time. And as Ginger says, it's not about how you find them, it's how they find you. So the world is changing in lots of ways. And I spoke last year at the main session, and according to the reviews we got back, I spoke right at lunchtime, and I was happy to hear I scored better than the roast beef, but I was slightly behind the chocolate mousse. But I was still happy with my SAT scores. But nonetheless, for those of you, I was in the premise business as well, sir. Started with AT&T, then Lucent, then Avaya. Started in 1999 with one salesperson. And we grew about $4 million a year for 8 years. At the end, $30 million, had 15 salespeople, and I'm very proud of that. And now I did not own this, by the way. I made a lot of money for another guy. But we were the top telecom dealer in Washington, D.C. 3 years in a row. How did we do it? We're new business folks. It was all new logos. So if you want to hear about somebody who's attracted and won big logos, that's what we did. That's how we got to be number one in the D.C. area. Now, I do a lot of things with sales and marketing, and so these are free resources I'll tell you about later if you want to kind of get on the list here. I put these out. Also do webinars like we did with Channel Partners last week. I'm going to start with a real-life war story just to kind of get synced up. What does a big MRR sale look like? How does it happen? Who is it with? And maybe some of you are wondering, that's a big company. Folks, I started with one salesperson. We were not a big company. We grew into it. Not overnight, but we grew year over year over year to a big company. But we didn't do it overnight. But here's a sale. This is when I first started. The gentleman on the right, his name is Jeff Neal. And I hired Jeff 1 year out of college. And he was on my small business team. We used to do a lot with Domino's Pizza. And our typical sale was about $5,000. I love mentoring young people. And he grew and developed when he got his first $100,000 W-2. I took a picture of it and we celebrated. And then he's gone on to be $1 million GP, and now he does multi-millions in MRR. How has this growth happened? I've done webinars with Jeff as well. He comes in as a guest on my webinars about how he does it. This is a story that Jeff did. When I coach salespeople on how to identify new business, the first thing I ask them to do is to network with other highly professional salespeople. And he did. He was networking with a commercial real estate company in the Washington, D.C. area, and they would trade leads. What a perfect compliment, right? So Jeff would do voice. They would do commercial real estate. So whenever they knew somebody who was moving into a big building or opening, expanding, Jeff would hear about it. Great sales opportunity for him. Whenever one of his customers was growing and moving, he would pass it to the commercial real estate person, and that was a great lead for him. So Jeff had a whole network of people who were professionals that he would network with and trade leads. So he started with commercial real estate. He started in the DC area. One day, the person with this commercial real estate company said, Jeff, our office could use a phone system. So Jeff went in. He was able to make that one sale. I don't know the size exactly. Let's say 50 stations, maybe might have been as many as 100, but 50-ish, okay? When he did that, I said, look, this is a nationwide company, Jeff. Why don't you find out who the other offices are? Why don't you go back and see where the regional office is? The regional office was in Philadelphia. So he found out the people there. He got to know the people in Philadelphia, made a sale to the Philadelphia office. Now he had the whole region. I said, Jeff, keep tracking it back. Where's the home office? Home office was in Dallas. So he traveled to Dallas, and he got to know the people in Dallas. So fast forward, again, this took probably a case of 7 or 8 years, maybe even more. We were selling Avaya product. Of course, it's hosted now, but back then it was premise-based solutions, so we're selling Aura, the Avaya solutions. And over time, in fact, his last 3 years, until this story kind of changes, he had sold him $16 million worth of gear. So that's a great, we call that in sales land and expand. You land a little piece, and then you expand out, which is what Jeff did. So all's good, right? Everybody's happy. Big sale, big customer. Everybody's happy until they merged with another company. Now, how often does that happen to you? You've got a company, they get bought by somebody else, and all of a sudden all your people are gone. That's what happened to Jeff. All his contacts were no longer in a series of power. He could have lost the entire account. But he looked at it as an opportunity. Now, this customer was now international. And so Jeff looked at this as an opportunity. He says, okay, he goes back to Avaya and says, can I do licenses in China, Australia, Moscow, Europe, South America? And Avaya said, no. He said, really? I'm doing all this business in the USA. And they said, no, we've got partners in these places. Thank you, little boy. Give us the leads. We'll pay you a referral fee, maybe, and we'll let our partners in China and Japan and everywhere else do it. Well, you can appreciate that didn't sit well with Jeff. He didn't like that particularly very well. So he started investigating other people who might be able to handle this opportunity. And one of the people he talked to was Microsoft. And we had just picked up Microsoft as another vendor, as a small practice. So we didn't really have much of a practice, but obviously Microsoft scales very well, and their vision is international. So this was actually a good story for the customer. So here we are. He's got an Avaya opportunity, legacy. He's got a Microsoft opportunity, but he also has a big risk of losing everything. Because how many Avaya partners out there are competing? How many Microsoft partners want that business? When you get that many stations, everybody wants that business. But what he did was he turned that opportunity into something that only he could do, because he could migrate the Avaya into the Microsoft. The Microsoft partners didn't know the Avaya people didn't know the Microsoft, so he actually was in a position that he was able to leverage to a competitive advantage instead of a competitive disadvantage. And it worked out that way. And so it turned out, at the time, was the largest Microsoft 365 sale in the world at that point, 43,000 endpoints. And you'll see all this, the customer, Cushman & Wakefield, this is all public stuff, so I'm not divulging anything here. You don't see Jeff's name anywhere, but he was right in the thick of this, and he was happy to actually, this is a customer that really wanted publicity. And so they wanted to be seen as a visionary. You ever seen that, where a customer wants to be the trailblazer, they want to be the first? Well, that worked out great. So, long story here, but 43,000 endpoints, 600,000 MRR. So what's the so what to this story? What did he do? What did he do that other people couldn't do? And the answer is, he did it. At every point, he pushed the sale to the next level. So when he was trading leads, he pushed it for a sale locally. When he was locally, he pushed a sale regionally. When he was regionally, he pushed a sale nationally. When he was sale nationally, he pushed it internationally. When he had a choice of 2 vendors, every step he made that happen. But believe me, Jeff is not a super person. Everybody in this room can do what he did. He just executed step by step. So that's a story. If you're asking, are they out there? Yeah, these stories are out here all the time. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. 5 secrets for selling MRR opportunities. What can we do? How can you do it? And I'm hoping you walk away with it. Now, you may know I was put on this agenda at the last minute. And thanks very much for Channel Partners for doing this, but all the sessions were overbooked. They didn't have enough room for everybody, so they said, Mike, can you do a session? So 10 days ago, they said, Mike, can you do a session? Great. What do you want me to talk about? 5 secrets. I said, fine, sign me up. So that's why we're a late edition. But I've got to admit, I'm not a big fan of the term secrets. How many times have you seen that? 5 secrets to losing weight. What's the secret, folks? Diet and exercise. Is that really a secret? What's the secret to better time management? Well, prioritize your time and block it out. Is there really a secret? I love what Larry Winget says. He's a guy I know from the speaking profession. He does these inspirational books like Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life. Your kids are your own damn fault. So he's a funny motivational or anti-motivational speaker, but one of his favorite quotes that I love is, there are very few good ideas in this world, and not one of them is a secret. So as much as I love the title, 5 Secrets, I'm really kind of an anti-secret guy, because I think it's all out there. And so perhaps yourselves, what about this? This is Captain Obvious. What are the secrets to big sales? Well, you got to go after large accounts, and sir, to your point, you got to find people who can spend that kind of money, whether it's one big location or lots of little ones. You have to have great relationships. You have to show expertise. Duh, right? Have I said anything that you wouldn't have figured out intuitively anyway? So I thought, what can I do that really is a secret? If you want to go from where you are to bigger sales, you want to amp your game up, how can Mike help you? And what can I say that isn't obvious that you don't know already? And guess what? I took it as an exercise, thanks to Lorna and to Lynn here for pushing me. I said, damn it, I'm going to come up with 5 things that maybe aren't obvious to you. And I hope I have. And so at this point, I'm going to do a quick exercise with a point. And I've got a couple people who've offered to help me. Can I ask Ron and Suzanne, can I ask you to come up here? What I'm going to do, this is a short, I'm just going to do half on here, half over here, just at random, I don't care. 7 or 8 people on each side. Fill these questions out real quick, and then Suzanne and Ron will collect them, and we're going to talk about what the answers are. 4 questions. Maybe just take a minute. This is called an influence survey. So we're going to talk, so don't think about it, don't Google it, just do your answers and give them to Suzanne and Ron. But 5 secrets. What are 5 secrets that you don't know already that maybe aren't? And so I'm looking for, maybe surprising, maybe counterintuitive, maybe hard to believe. And I'm trying hard to find some things that really aren't obvious to you. And I hope I'm able to succeed. Now, as soon as you're done filling these out, please give them to Ron and Suzanne and collect them. I want to bring them back up here in the front. Guys ready? Raise them up. There we go. Anybody else? Just wrap them up. Okay. Is that it? Anybody else? We about done? And when you're done, oh, there's one more back there, sir. Do you have one more? 2 more. Okay. Anybody else going once? We already sold 100 station. No, that goes to, give that to Suzanne, sir, okay? She'll be up in a second. Okay? All right. Come on up front. Actually, stay right up here, Ron. So we have them all. Can we give Suzanne and Ron a thunderous round of applause? Thank you very much. Okay. Stay right here for a minute. I'm going to ask you to read off the answers. Let me ask you, before I go any further, have I talked to any of you in this room about this card? Any of you who filled out the forms, have I prepped you, influenced you? Have I said anything? Have I asked you to answer it a certain way? Have I done that to any of the people who answered the cards? Okay? No. So random, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you've done, but I'm going to say my job here, I've been subconsciously manipulating every person in this room since I've been up here. What have I been doing and how have I been doing it? So my influence survey says this. Everybody was asked this question: what is your best guess about the height of the tallest redwood tree? Okay? Did everybody get that exact question? Okay? I'm going to say that Ron's answers, the people on his side are going to say under 300, and Suzanne's are going to say over 600. I don't know, let's see. So Ron, may I ask you, so this is, Ron is 300. Okay, Ron, what are your answers? Just the last question.
I got 5 that are under.
Oh, go ahead, just read them to me.
200.
200? 200? 250? 150? 100? You have 6 cards?
No, I've got 2 that are.
Oh, that's fine, go ahead.
350.
350?
And 640.
640, okay. So what would you say, folks? That's about 220, something like that as an average, maybe? If there's a math person, you can figure it out. Suzanne, what are your answers? 1,201, 1,600, 900, 800, 4,000, 1,508. Okay, go ahead. 300, 200. Okay, I'm not a math guy, but it sounds like it's probably in the 1,000+ range. Okay, let's give Suzanne and Ron a hand. Thank you so much for helping me. Just put them right here. What the heck was that all about? Okay, this is one of the most famous psychological surveys ever done, and I'll share with you what this is. So the first secret is called anchoring. So I asked each side to answer it. I asked the same question of both sides of the room, but I phrased the questions a little bit differently. And each question is phrased differently, which influenced how you answered it. And you'll notice at the bottom, On one side, I said, is it taller than 180 feet? The other one I said, is it taller than 1,200 feet? And that one difference made all the difference in the answers that you just gave. So if we went through all of these, here's what would happen. Team 1 would say yes to the first question. Team 2 says no. The second question, no, yes, taller, shorter. And why did I say 361? What's the tallest redwood tree in the world? 300, what's that? How much is it? 379. Okay, it's grown since I did this thing. 379. What is this, and who cares, and what does this have to do with what you're doing? This psychological concept is called anchoring, and it works on the subconscious area of your brain. In fact, psychological studies have shown that if I even just say the stock market is 2,400, what's anchored in your brain? 24. If I say the temperature outside is 58 degrees, what's anchored in your brain? You're not even conscious that this is happening. So this comes from a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist named Daniel Kahneman. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And he has all these questions are word for word from Daniel Kahneman. And this question has been replicated thousands of times. It always comes out the same way. And the answers are, the average answer is 844 as opposed to 282. That's shocking, how much anchoring. Now, what's the so what for us in sales? Now, this happens in sales as well. When you're selling, what does this mean to you about how you present your pricing? So this works, you go to the supermarket. If you go to buy Campbell's soup and it's 10% off, if we just say it's 10% off, you're gonna buy 3. If you say limit 12, you'll buy 7. Why? Where's the anchor? Isn't that fascinating? So what's the so what to you in sales? The sales is you always, always, always anchor a number with a higher number. So for example, let's say if it's 100,000 MRR, you can say you're spending, let's say you're talking managed service. This is great for managed services. You got an IT person, you're paying them $80,000 a year. So if you have 10 IT people, $80,000 a year, you're spending $800,000 a year on IT people. Over 5 years is spending $4 million. So I'm anchoring $4 million you're spending on IT right now. My managed services are $3,200 a month. What have I just done? Does that $3,200 seem pretty cheap compared to $4 million? You anchor high. And the way you do that is in the conversation, here's what you're spending now, your total cost of ownership. Does that make sense to everybody? Anchor high. The best thing you can do to justify high prices is always anchor high, okay? You can say, I used to say this a few years ago. A few years ago, you would pay $35 a station for hosted voice. And now it's what? What have I just done? I've anchored what number? 35, okay? So anchor high. Hopefully that's a good takeaway for you. It's amazing how it works. And folks, it's uncanny. All right, next one. When I started in sales, I had a manager, and he said, Mike, this is not a picture of me. It's a picture of some generic stock photo guy. But the manager said, Mike, your success will be based on how hard you work and how good you are. And I thought that made perfect sense. So skills, how good you are. Activities, how hard you work. What could be more logical that my success is based on skills and activities? So what did I do? I learned everything I could about selling, qualification, presentation, ROI, demo, etc. Qualifying activities, cold call, demo, presentation, needs analysis, executive briefing, all sorts of activities. Matter of fact, I was in Southern Florida at the time, and I literally cold called every business in my territory in Southern Florida. That's Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale. I was making 20 door knocks a day for 3 months. I physically visited 1,200 offices. So at the end of the 3 months, I came back and I said, okay, I'm the hardest working guy in the office, and I'd like to think, because of all this training and certification and reading I'm doing on selling, I'm the best salesperson, but there's something very distressing about that. I was the hardest working, I was the best, I thought, but I wasn't the top salesperson, and that really bothered me. Matter of fact, when I go across the country right now, sir, you're in Sparta. One of the guys at High Point Solutions, his name is Kevin Meyerhoff, earned $2 million. $2 million His big account was Barclays Bank. So Michael over here, we know a common, not a competitor of yours, but somebody in your area. And I know that business very well. But I asked his manager at the time, there was a new opportunity. It was a big opportunity. I said, well, have you given it to Kevin? She said, I'd never give it to Kevin. I said, why do you say that? She says, I got 5 salespeople better than Kevin. Really? A guy who earns $2 million a year, and he's not even your best, not even your top 5 salesperson. He isn't. So what I mean to say by this, folks, is when I realized that skill and activity, while they're important, are not the most important in success. In fact, every time I go to see an office and there's a big stick out there, somebody who's really knocking it down, I'll ask them the question, is that your best salesperson? And it's almost never yes. They're good people, they work hard, customers love them, but they're not the best salespeople. So if skill and activity isn't the most important, what would be? And when I looked at those top people, like Kevin, well, he has Barclays Bank. I don't know how he got Barclays Bank, but that's a pretty nice size account. And when the financial crisis kind of went over, they bought like 3 years worth of stuff in 1 year. I think he sold like $60, $70 million worth of stuff. So getting back here, what is important is they target large accounts. I mean, I know it's Captain Obvious here. They do have expertise and they focus on what's important. And so that's the takeaway. So skill and activity are important, yes, but not most important. What's most important is focus. So Michael, your vertical market is security, right? And HIPAA. Great space to be in. I don't care what you're knowledgeable about. Be knowledgeable and be the expert on something. That's where the big business comes from. So focus on account size. I often tell people nothing under, if you want to sell, 10, 20, 30,000 MRR, stop selling 20 station opportunities. If you're searching for big fish, fish where the big fish are. Don't go to a lake hoping to catch a marlin. They aren't in lakes. You have to fish where the big ones are. So they go after the big accounts. They have specialization. A friend of mine at IBM used to say, he called this the funny-shaped door. Funny-shaped door is, he says, not everybody fits it. So what's my ideal customer look like? They're this size. They appreciate my value add. They let me do my job. They don't 3-bid everything. That's my funny-shaped door. And he says, if they don't fit through my funny-shaped door, I don't sell to them. So, and then lastly, expectations. So the nice acronym here, SAFE, skills, activities, focus, expectations. If you want to sell the big MRR systems, folks, you got to live in that space. You have to take some time before it comes home for you. But what did Jeff Neal do when he was networking with people? Who was he networking with? Other high-income, high-value people. So some people call that, I've heard it called like the 5 chimps theory. The 5 chimps theory says, they found this from studying primates, you can tell a class, social class of a chimpanzee by who they hang out with. And they say that when you hang out with the 5 people you hang out with the most, you will earn the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And so if you're hanging out with the bowling league with people, that's where you're going to be. If you want to have high MRR opportunities, you hang out with people that do that. And that's what Jeff Neal did. So he was with commercial real estate people. He was doing it with high carrier services people. He would do it with moving companies. He would do it with website design. But high expectation salespeople, he would hang out with those, and his expectations were high. So I call that macro sales. That's why sometimes the best salespeople, the top earning salespeople are not the most skilled. I mean, how many times, let me just ask, have you seen that? Where somebody's really successful, and you say, geez, they're really not that good. You guys seen that? So that's why. So that's secret number 2. Counterintuitively, skill and activity are not the most important. Expectations and focus are. Next, some of you talked about how customers find us. One of these stats that I like is 90% of decision makers never respond to cold outreach. You can cold call all you want. They're not going to see you. So how do I find them? Well, how did Jeff Neal do it? So this is a study done by, my slide didn't quite come out here, sorry about that. This is done by Neil Rackham, who wrote the book Spin Selling. So James, you're a fan of spin selling. but he surveyed 1,100 corporate executives, and he asked a really interesting question. He said, how many salespeople are so valuable you would be willing to pay for their expertise? And how many salespeople are such a waste of time they should pay you for the time that they wasted? So we asked that question. What do you think the answer was? From a CEO's perspective, it's shocking, but less than 5% of salespeople were considered so valuable they'd be willing to spend money. And that's a shame. And that's why it's hard for us to get appointments with these guys, because they've had 20 losers before you come in the door that wasted their time. They say, I'm not going to waste any more time with these people. So 30% of salespeople are a total waste of time, and they don't even want to talk to them. So unfortunately, we suffer from that because they've had so many losers come in and talk with them, they don't even want to talk to us. So how do we reach them if they won't respond to cold outreach? Well, the way to do it is through networking. So they've had too many people like this come in. They don't like salespeople. They want somebody who's got knowledge, expertise, and can help them. So the best way to do that is through professional networking. So the same thing I said with Jeff Neal, with his networking ability. So here's an example. This is another one. This is in Atlanta. In full disclosure, we did not make this sale. I'm still going to tell the story. It's a good story, but there was a salesperson there. He says, Mike, I read in the Business Journal that this company is going to overhaul their entire communications infrastructure across the whole country. It's a great opportunity. I said, super, let's get in and see if we can talk to them. And week after week, he says, Mike, they won't see me. I can't get in. You ever had that happen? You hear a great opportunity. It's like Fort Knox. You can't get in. So I said, I tell you what, let's see who this guy is, and let's see if there are other ways to see him. So we pulled open, we went to the company website first. So we went to the company website to see who were the people involved. This was the gentleman who was in charge of this project. So great LinkedIn profile. We saw what groups he was involved in. Now, how many times do you guys do this? You check into LinkedIn and see what groups they belong to, what their interests are. It's a great way to get information for people. They were looking for a desktop analyst, so this is great. We saw that this gentleman was an active member of the Technology Association of Georgia. And so what I said to the sales rep, he says, look, there's an upcoming TAG event. He was a panelist at an upcoming technology event. I said, here's what you do. You go to that event as a guest, and you're going to meet the guy. You'll hear him talk, and at the end, what do? You walk up and say, sir, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much, and shake his hand. Now, here's what else you do. You join that organization as a volunteer. They'll let you join. And I've run a nonprofit for a year, the National Speakers Association, the local chapter. Nonprofits are begging for volunteers. They never have enough money. They never have enough manpower. They need people to do marketing. They need people to greet new members. They need the new member committee. They need people to clean up the coffee cups, to distribute the agendas. Nonprofits, every meeting they have has all sorts of work that's needed. And I told the sales rep, I said, I want you to go to every meeting. You're the first one there. You greet all these people when they come in. You volunteer for every job. Now, he got one job. It was great in Atlanta. He says, would you mind driving the beer cart for all the attendees? They had a charity golf tournament, and all these CIOs and CEOs were playing golf. And he was giving him beer. Now, do you think he was welcomed when he came up to see him on the golf course? They were delighted. Isn't that a better way to do it than trying to getting through 5 layers of executive assistants? So my point is, how can you reach these people in other ways? They'll tell you right in LinkedIn how to see them. What are they interested in? What are their groups? One of my biggest customers in DC was Booz Allen Hamilton. And how did I find out about them? We knew a mutual person who had Lou Gehrig's disease, and I did the walkathon every year. And every year, Booz Allen had people we marched with them. My kids held the banner. I got to know them through our mutual interest in ALS research, Lou Gehrig's disease. All these people that you can't get to see through cold calls care about something. You might see them at a soccer game. They're in the supermarket. They go to these events. They might like fishing. They may be University of Georgia fans, whatever. But that's where you find them. Does that make sense to everybody? So counterintuitive, that's how you find these people. So in the old days, this is the old traditional sales funnel, right? 1,000 dials, boom, 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 that's the funnel. Today, we call it flipping the funnel. Instead of starting with 1,000 people you don't know, you flip the funnel. You say, here's 20 people I want to get to know. How do I do it? You go into LinkedIn, you find out who they're friends with, you try and get connected, you try and get introduced. That's how you do it. You may take a year. You may send them 20 invitations. There's a company I work with in Chicago, Black Box Network Services, and he heard about, there was a customer who was a big Star Wars fan. He goes to a movie theater and says, can I get a movie premiere for Star Wars? Well, sure. $8,000, you got a movie premiere. He invites the guy and says, look, would you like to go to the Star Wars new movie when it comes out a day before it gets released? The answer was, can I bring my son? Yeah. He'd never even heard of him before. And so they did the movie premiere, invited all their people to come in. How hard is it to invite people to a movie premiere for Star Wars? And how many people in the tech community are Star Wars fans? And on the way out, the guy says, do we do business with these people? And the guy says, no. He says, find a PO and give it to him. And he did. It was like $140,000. And when he looked at it, he says, there's something wrong here. It's like 60% margin. He said, this is either your current vendor made a mistake or they're overcharging you. It turned out their current vendor was taking advantage of them, and they flipped that whole account. But how did he do it? The guy was a Star Wars fan. So see, use the wheels. That's how you find people, not knocking on doors. So flip the funnel and find ways. So hope you like that one. Next, I'm a big believer in understanding deeply and intimately. And in fact, the keynote speaker said that today, right? Knowing more what the customer doesn't know. So they say, here's what the customer knows. Here's what they know that they don't know. But that's where you live, folks. They don't know that they don't know. That's where your expertise comes in. Michael, for you, for HIPAA, how many people aren't aware of HIPAA? Somebody said security vulnerabilities with medical facilities, right? They don't know what they don't know. And that's where you come in with expertise, ushered in with a strategic conversation. Do that, and then James had asked, what do you say? When you get a strategic conversation, what do you say? So first, you earn the right. You've done your diligence, you've done your digging, you understand it. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to go through quickly here because I'm burning low on time here, and I want to get done with this. These are called qualifying questions. So you might call this qualifying 101. What's the money, authority, need, et cetera. I call this qualifying 1+1. Not just do they have money now, but how do they make money? How do they spend money? Not just the person who's authority, but who else? Who are the influencers in the organization? Not just the need, but what do they want 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road? What's their wish list? Not just the implementation schedule for the next project, but what's the roadmap look like? See, when you have these questions, James, aren't those great questions? When you know this, you've earned the right to have $1 million conversation with the CEO if you know this. So you get these people saying, so what? What's your widget? So I asked these 5 questions. In fact, this is a takeaway for you. What are your strategic objectives? What are your metrics to gauge progress? What are your biggest opportunities? What are your biggest challenges? What are your desired outcomes? And I like this. I asked to put this on my salespeople's, I call this an eye chart that looks like something you see in an eye doctor. But those are the 5 questions. That's the eye chart. Somebody comes back to me, if they want to sell $1 million account, do you know the answers to those questions? If you don't, you're peddling dial tone. Right? Okay, interest of time. If you get this look, the lizard look I call it, they don't know what you're talking about. You're saying, look, just give me a price, right? You get Sparky in IT. Is that a strategic thinker? Probably not. Or how about this guy in purchasing? Let me just skip ahead. You ever get that guy in purchasing? How are you going to upsell that guy? You think that guy's ever going to be convinced of anything you got? Just give me the price, value boy. The problem with that is you're not going to turn those people. They're not strategic thinkers. You're not going to get anywhere trying to sell that kind of person. So what can you do? I'm going to tell you another war story, then I'll wrap up because I'm running, unfortunately, a little bit long. This is an actual letter a friend of mine did. He was with Oracle. And you can see this here. By the way, anybody who wants the deck, just give me your card at the end. I'll send you the deck. It's got this letter. This is an actual letter to an actual customer. It's a great letter, I think. It starts with a customer benefit. It's specific, not fluff. It shows other people that they've done business with. There's a call to action at the end. Now, I just said cold calling's dead. This one happened to work because it had all these things. And it had a compelling ROI. It had evidence behind it, showing where the cost savings are going to be. But they identified millions of dollars in savings. And they showed where they got the business from. Now, if you have that kind of powerful message, they will talk to you. They have to. If you go to a CEO and say, I've got a ways to do, you can spend $7 million and take out 20. You spend 7 and get back 20. They have to do it, folks. You have to make that investment. If they're not, they're incompetent. You can't get that ROI anywhere. They have to do it. So that was a $7 million sale, but they took out 20 in cost. Of course, that's a great investment. What are we talking about? Anchoring, right? 20 million is the anchor. That's what you're spending now. You put 7 million in, so that's it. So with that, I'm going to, in the interest of time, just cut it right here, and I'll recap for you. But let me give you a chance to breathe here and ask. First of all, let me ask you, did you get one idea that you can help you be better? Let me just ask you that. So you got one thing at least you can get from this. Let me just ask for a question or comment before I close here. Sir, Jeff, James. Yeah? Pardon me? The five one? Okay, you put me on the spot. I can't cheat. What are your strategic goals? What are your metrics to gauge success? What are your biggest opportunities? What are your biggest obstacles? And what are your desired outcomes? Anybody who wants it, I'll send you the eye chart. Just pin it in the wall. But it's a great series of questions, folks. And most salespeople don't know it. Those are the questions that make the decision makers think. And we have to push them a little bit. What can you do to run a more effective business? How about another question over here on this side? Anybody have a question or comment? Yes? Pardon me? Just give me your card at the end. Matter of fact, let me just share with you, I've got like 4 things that you can have. By the way, I don't sell you anything. Everything I do here is free. I have one, the deck, and also put you on my email list if you want to do about 6 a year so you don't get a lot. I also have on sales recruiting, how to attract and hire great salespeople. It's great interview questions with good answers, bad answers, and horrible answers. So there, I'll give you that. And then lastly, a salary compensation survey of what people are earning in the channel. If you want to see that, just give me your card. I'll send that stuff to you. That makes sense. Okay, let me just burn through here. Let me just leave you with this thought. If I have a metaphor for you for selling, it's doing this. If you're selling a Hawaiian vacation, how do you sell it? Well, you probably talk about the gentle breezes, the nice hammock, sandy beaches, buffed up people frolicking in the surf. You've got umbrella drinks out by the bar. You've got maybe golf by the seaside. You've got a candlelight, a sunset dinner with wine. That's how you sell a vacation, right? But how do people in our business sell it? How do you think we sell that? If we were to sell a Hawaiian vacation, how would we sell it? We would say, well, first, we go through TSA. We take our shoes off, you get patted down, and you go through a metal detector. Then, you get to meet 150 of your closest friends for an 8-hour flight. And you have your choice of aisle seat, middle seat, or window. You have fine dining along the way and our excellent customer service. Isn't that how we sell it? When we're selling, this is how we sell it, folks. Here's what our service is. Here's where our data center is located. Here's how we deliver 5 nines of reliability. They don't care about that. They want the sandy beaches, folks. So my final thought for everyone here, sell the destination. Sell the sandy beaches, don't sell the airplane. Sell the sandy beaches. So with that, How much time do we have? Are we done or do we have, pardon me? Oh, 10 minutes, okay. Your applause is premature. How about 2 questions and I'm gonna let you out early, how's that? So question over here, question, comment. Or let me ask you this. Several of you raised your hands. What was the most useful thing that you can take and use when you get home? Get back. Absolutely. Yep. Yes, James. Pardon me? Anchoring. Great. Over here? I put this side to sleep. Come on, help me out. Networking. Okay. One more. Zelda, thank you. All right. Yes. Yep. Yep. That's great. That's anchoring, folks. If you give it away for free, this happens with assessments. How many of you do assessments? I have a free assessment, free assessment. How much do they value that free assessment? If you say, I've got a $3,000 assessment, they value it. And kudos to you, sir, for charging for your expertise, because they value it. Yep. Yep. Well, with that, again, if you want any of these tools, just give me your card at the end. I hope you got something you can use. Thank you so much. Thanks.